All right, I'm back for WS's ongoing coverage of IEM Cologne 2023. I'm here with Guerri coming off of their opening win against Grayhound and what ended up being a pretty close game. So I wanted to first ask you about that. Your team's going through a lot of changes overall. This is your debut as a team, and it's ended up being pretty close against Australians at Grayhound. Were you sort of impressed by them, or were you impressed by their performance overall, or do you think it was more of your team, your team being new? What factor do you think was the main consideration in the match being so close?
Their pistols are awesome, bro. We lost some anti-force buys and we lost the pistols. And BO1, it's really close match if you don't win a pistol. So this made the game much more closer than it looked like. But props for them because they play well, not just pistols. And we made a lot of mistakes. I think this is normal for the first match as a team. Everyone is anxious to play. We practice a lot, but everyone wants to play officials. So it's okay to be a close match in this debut.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you about that as well. You mentioned the fact that you guys have been practicing in preparation for this event. How much practice has FURIA actually been able to do? Because it was only relatively recently that, Fallen and Chelo came into the roster, and a lot of teams we've talked to haven't really been able to practice a whole lot. What's the situation for you, your team, in terms of practice?
Yeah, we started our boot camp in the beginning of the month. We had like 20 days or 2 days less. Castrato and Chelo, they arrived late because they had something to do in Brazil before coming to boot camp. But we started the boot camp anyways without them, and we made a lot of conversation. We talk a lot about the maps, about the mixture, about between art and fallen. And we're trying to make this work the best way possible. But overall, the boot camp was okay. It was enough time to practice all the maps.
I wanted to ask you, you sort of talked about that conversation between you, Art, and Fallen, and it sort of goes without saying that the addition of Fallen to this roster is the most significant thing that's probably ever happened in terms of changing its overall style. Because, since you transitioned to being a coach, and since he joined from, forgive me if I'm wrong, FURIA Academy back in 2018, or INTZ.
He came from INTZ to FURIA.
Yeah. So when he came from INTZ and you transitioned to coaching, he's pretty much been your IGL for your entire coaching career. Mm-hmm. Is how much of a culture shock is it as a coach to go from one IGL you've always worked with to someone completely new?
Fallen is awesome. So it's really easy to work with him. He's really willing to collaborate with everybody, open-minded. So when someone is IGL and have this kind of profile, it's really easy. So it's kind of I'm really happy to have him on the team.
Mm-hmm. And so beyond the how an IGL calls and what kind of strategies they bring to the table, a big change that a team will face when they get a new IGL is kind of what kind of leader they are as a person. What is the biggest difference between how Art leads a team and how Fallen leads a team, sort of in like the intangible way?
I think Fallen is more experienced. More calm than Art. Art's more explosive. IGL, he really like the reaction of the game, and Fallen really like to try to read the other team and try to put them in a spot that is really difficult to play to. So if we can mix both styles, it will be really good for us. But I think overall, it's more Fallen is more experienced, so he's more calm, and that's the biggest difference right now.
And alongside Fallen, another sort of marquee signing for the FURIA organization was the addition of Chelo. And Fallen was kind of in the sort of rumor mill for a very long time as either coming to FURIA or coming to Pain. But Chelo seems like it was a much quicker move, at least from the outside looking in. What was the process of bringing Chelo on board, and how did you know? What factors led you to know he's a player you wanted to work with?
In 2018, or end of 2017, I already talked with Chelo to bring him to the FURIA team. So I always looking his playing. I'm aware about him the whole time. And when we start talking about the fifth player, We talk a lot of names, but when I asked Fallen about cello, he gave me a lot of insights that when I heard, I was certain that cello will be the fifth player. So cello, he always in the anything he played, he always the best player in the team. So Imperial, in my opinion, he was the best player too. So to bring him with a lot of firepower and a lot of experience was like the dream for us.
And one thing I looked into with the Brazilian Shuffle overall is that coming out of the Brazilian Shuffle, FURIA ended up as the oldest sort of major team in the region. A big question sort of about Fallen's future is his longevity. As you know, previously when he went to Imperial, he said this will be my final year, and then after Rio, he said one more year. And with the team sort of being as veteran and not for lack of a better word, old as they are, has there been a discussion about the longevity of this roster? Is this something the team wants to keep going for a long time, or is there sort of a timestamp on this roster?
No, we don't have like a timestamp. We are really confident that Fallen can play much more than just 1 year. So besides his age, he's really willing to play. He loves the game. He loves to be a leader. He loves to be in competitive scene. So it's really important for him to playing. And if he is happy and if he can collaborate his professional life with his personal life, I think he have like more than 1 year for sure.
Another change FURIA made in the last couple of months, towards the end of 2022, is they replaced Tacitus with Side as their assistant coach. Assistant coaches don't get as much, press coverage, or they don't get as much, interview opportunities. I sort of wanted to just ask you about what he brings to the table as your sort of number two on the team.
CD was like a big surprise for me. I was. I'm sure that I made the right decision because he's really willing to be the best coach he can be. He's really focused. He wants to help with everything. So, in my opinion, as assistant coach, he's like my doppelganger. He's doing whatever I'm doing to like mirror my function. This is really important because in the future he can replace me.
And so, last question. We sort of have looked the Brazilian Shuffle, even beyond your team. It completely, turned over the paradigm of the Brazilian scene. We saw Pain completely change their roster. We saw Fluxo completely change their roster. We saw all these 0-0 Nation, added a player. Why do you think that is that the Brazilian team completely went from before the player break to after the player break, not, so many changes all at once? Is there some sort of cultural change in Brazil that's going on, or was there some sort of cause of all those changes that happened all at once?
I think because we changed two players, this shake a lot of every team, because we need to pick it up some player from some team and someone need to fill out the gap. So I think this started because of FURIA, but overall because of CS2 and after the major, we know that the next major will be next year. So this is the right time to do that. So like Navi, a lot of things did that. So that's it.
Beyond your own roster, of course, which you're very excited about, what other Brazilian projects really excite you right now? Whether it's the new youngsters on Pain, whether it's Fluxo, what other projects in Brazil really excite you as like a new potential contender?
I think we have a lot of good teams in Brazil. 0-0, MIBR, Fluxo, Pain. All those teams have like the opportunity to be a really good team in Brazil and play in the high level internationally, but they need to get more experience because if you like put in the paper every roster, I think the most experienced roster is Imperial, so I think they can have an edge because of that.
All right, so Imperial maybe is the team to watch out for.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on your win today.
Thanks.